So today's presenters, I am Schalk. I'm from the KNIME education team. I'm joined here in a rainy Constance by my colleague, who I'm going to ask to introduce himself.
Thank you, Schalk. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this webinar. I'm Emilio and I'm also from the education team at KNIME.
Thanks, Emilio. We're also joined online by some KNIMers. Victoria, Sarah, and Scott are in the background, and they will be answering some of the questions in the Q&A. So what can you expect from today's workshop? So first of all, who is it for? This webinar is aimed at spreadsheet users. Maybe you're a domain expert or something similar, and you would want to learn how to automate your spreadsheets in order to win some time back. So it might be that you're not familiar with KNIME. No problem, we have you covered. It might also be that you're actually using KNIME already and want to learn the value of automation. What are we actually going to present? Well, we're going to show you how to automate a spreadsheet, and we're going to introduce you to KNIME Analytics platform while we build a workflow live. So Emilio and we have decided for today's webinar that we're going to play a couple of roles. So the basic story is that we're in the same company. I'm a spreadsheet user, and I heard that Emilio, our expert KNIME user, he's made a name for himself in the company by automating a lot of his own work, his own spreadsheets, and saving time. So I've reached out to Emilio. I've sent him a couple of my spreadsheets already, so that hopefully he can teach me how to automate and save some time as well. Emilio, how does it sound? You ready?
I'm definitely ready. Yes.
All right. So let's just quickly bring up that spreadsheet that I sent you.
Mm-hmm. The spreadsheet. Yes. That one.
Is this the one? All right. Great. So basically, this is a various analysis budget compared to revenue. And you can see I did a couple of stuff with that. And the end result is to obviously have a visualization to communicate it. Does that look familiar to you?
Yes, I actually had a look at it before. I understand your final goal. So you have a pivoting table there, you get some data from finance, you do some pivoting, and then you have the visualization in the end. So the final goal is clear. What is not clear is the sequence that you do to get there. So what is your process to get there from the raw data to the final visualization? Can you explain?
To basically to the sheet. Yeah, sure. Let me quickly just back up here. So if I go one step back, I get kind of this raw table from finance with the revenue numbers for every month, right? And you can see it's a bit of code and stuff, and I then need to copy it over to this file, this spreadsheet here, because I don't want to touch my original data. And then there's a couple of stuff I need to do every month. I need to copy and paste it, append it every time there. So a couple of stuff I do. I need to take that first column, and I need to split it into these three, which I can later then match up with another table, some VLOOKUPs. And then I need to take some of the date and time and extract the name of the month and the number. All right, so that's kind of some of the transformation I have to do. Then I'm ready to pivot that table to the one you saw already. Then we're halfway there. I need to bring over my budget column from another file that I get from management, always on the server. And then I can do a last pivot table, do some math, and finally visualize it. Does that make sense?
Yes, actually it makes sense. So what I understand is that you do this repetitive task manually every time that you get new data, right? And then you have to do it every time, do some copy paste, which I understand could also be error prone, right?
100%.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we are doing now, what I'm introducing you now, is a way to make this process automatic, as you already said. So to avoid the repetitive task that you do every time, to save you time, of course, and also to reduce the possible errors that can generate for that. How does that sound?
Well, I mean, as long as I don't need to learn any code,
there is no code promise, no code involved. The only thing that you have to remember is KNIME Analytics platform. So just the name of the platform that we're going to use now. You ready?
Let's get going.
All right. So if I can share my screen now, and I'm going to open for you KNIME Analytics platform, which is, for the ones of you who don't know, KNIME Analytics platform is an open source software that makes you lets you make sense of your data. And as I said, it's open source and is about visual programming. So you don't have to code if you don't want to, because it's all about those building blocks that you put together to build your workflow. So to finally understand how KNIME Analytics platform works, let's forget 1 second about the spreadsheet, so things that we are used to, and focus only on the process that you apply. Every month, you receive some new data, and you apply a different set of steps to get your data from state A, so from the raw data, let's say, to state B, which is the final platform, so the final dashboard, let's say. And every time you apply this kind of set of steps, all the same, just on different data. All the same steps, just on different data. So this set of steps, this kind of process that you do in KNIME is called workflow. And all the single steps that you apply are called nodes. That's the only 2 things that you have to...
Sounds simple so far.
That you have to learn so far. Okay, so let me show you something in KNIME Analytics platform. If I now open KNIME Analytics platform, I have this getting start page, and I have a couple of examples. So a couple of predefined workflows that I can already inspect to have an idea. Let's open the first one. And as you can see, we have already a set of nodes, so a set of building blocks that are put together. And each of those perform one step on the data. So we have, for example, an Excel reader node that takes the data from an Excel file and put them into the workflow. And in this case, the data that we read, as soon as I click on the Excel reader, I can see them down here. We have the item column and the amount column. So that's the data table that is read from this Excel file. Then we have another Excel reader here that has an item column, an amount column, and a comment column in the end. Now what I want to do on this specific data table is that I want to remove, for example, the comment column. So I apply a column filter node, and all that this node does is to take one column and remove it from the data. And as you can see, now the data table is a bit different than I can see down here. Then from here, so with this process in mind, I can continue applying different steps to my data. For example, I can concatenate the 2 tables, so append them one after the other. And in the end, I can just create a bar chart, for example, out of those data for a simple visualization. So do you start understanding the concept of that?
Yeah, so it looks pretty clear.
The main thing that I want to point out here, and it's also one of the main differences between KNIME and the spreadsheet, is that in a spreadsheet, you have data and operations in the same part. So you have the cells, and in the cell, there is operations and data. In KNIME, instead, you have this differentiation because you have all the operations up here defined as workflows, so defined as nodes, steps, and you have the data table down here. So they are separated. Plus, the other big advantage is that you can see how your data evolve as soon as you go to
and click on the next.
Yes. Okay. So the data table look like this, and then after the appending some data with the concatenate, it looks like this, etc., etc. So you can inspect your process every time.
So you don't also risk clicking and deleting something, and the whole formula goes away.
Exactly. You can always go back. And if this is maybe a bit so before you start thinking that this is overwhelming because there are too many nodes, oh my god, what is that? Don't worry, because with the KNIME version 5, which is the one that I'm using now, so the new version that is being released, it comes with a dedicated set of nodes. So you only have the nodes that are necessary for you to get you started, and you're not overwhelmed with so many nodes that do so many things. So yeah, that's a big that was the introduction. I hope I convinced you.
Yeah, I'm keen to see if we can automate my stuff.
Definitely, if you're ready.
Yeah, let's do it.
Should we automate your process then? All right, then let's go to home, and now I can create a new workflow, which I'm gonna call automation Schalk. Like this, create. And now, as you can see, I have an empty workflow in there because the process is not defined yet. To start build this workflow, I can drag and drop files or nodes, as I said. So the nodes are all the building blocks that you find it here on the right. And then we can start drag and dropping them into the workflow to build the process. But actually, the first thing that I want to do is to read your data, right? So the data that you sent me, I saved them here in the data folder. They are from January, so I can just drag and drop this data folder. And as soon as I click, this file, as soon as I click here, I see your data already in the workflow. Does that look familiar?
Yeah. That's the one I get from finance, the revenue every month.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
So you have the coding string, transaction date, etc., etc. And let's start to operate on this data. So what is can you guide me? What is the first thing that you do as soon as you open this data file?
Yeah, well, apart from copying, pasting it over, that first column that you showed there, I need to, you see there's a couple of values there that's now divided by full stops or dots. I need to now split those values.
All right, so we want to split a column. For that, let me go to the node repository and let's look for the node that can help you performing this operation. So as I said, think about the process and the steps that you want to apply. In this case, you want to split a column. So let's just look for split. And we have a node called cell splitter, which I can drag and drop to my workflow, and I can provide the data table in here. So the data of the Excel reader, this data table, will go inside the cell splitter, and the cell splitter will apply the splitting operation. Now, all we have to do is to click on the first button and just organize this and just configure this node. So configure the operation that we want to perform. In this case, we just want to select the column that we want to split, which is the coding string, right?
Correct, yeah.
And that delimiter, which, if I remember correctly, is the full stop.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah. OK. I click the second button up here on the node, and I can see that my data table changed because now I have the original data table plus 4 more columns, which each of them containing one element of this coding string. So it just split the data table into. So this is what you used to do with the spreadsheet.
Yeah. All right. So if I didn't know the node, I can just, what you showed me, just search in the bar and it will kind of suggest.
Exactly. You can search for a node. So like, I don't know, filter or whatever you want to do. And it will, of course, you can search for that. Or you can also browse the node repository and search, for example, all the manipulation nodes or manipulation on columns, for example. So use those filters up here, and you're going to get to the node that will help you.
And between the first and the second node, it doesn't change my original data, right?
No, the original data are just read from that file and put them into the KNIME workflow, but they are not changed actively. So unless you actively change them.
Okay, sounds good.
Yes. All right, so this was the first operation. What next? What do you do on this data now?
So now it's split it. I obviously need to rename it on top so that I can match those columns later. So the new columns need to be renamed. All right.
Rename, let's look for rename. And we have a column renamer node, which again, drag and drop and connect. First button. And now I can select for the first. So for each column that we split, we can select a different name. For example, what is the first one?
I think that should be the store ID.
Store ID. Then I can click Add Column. And I can select the second one. What is the second one?
The second one should be the source ID.
Source ID. And the third one?
The third one I actually don't use.
Okay, so the fourth one.
Yeah, the fourth one, yeah.
What is that?
So that should be the SKU ID. That's just what we call the products, the SKU ID.
All right, SKU ID. Okay. Second button, and I can see the table with the new nodes, basically. Perfect. So we have the source ID, coding string, because we didn't rename that, and then the SKU ID in the end.
Yep, looks good.
All right, what's next?
So now that we've renamed the columns, we are ready to match them actually to the other table I sent you, the matching table.
All right, yes. Yep. I have the data table up here, the mapping table. Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
So normally I would use a VLOOKUP for this.
All right, yeah, because here we have the SKU ID, which is the one that we have here, right?
Correct, yeah.
And then we want to bring basically the SKU name, the category, and the price there. And you used that, you said a VLOOKUP?
Yes, actually multiple to be
VLOOKUP. We have a value lookup node.
Yeah,
that's
very intuitive. Yep.
Do the job. So in the VLOOKUP, actually in the spreadsheet, you have to select two tables, right? The data table and then kind of a dictionary table. And again, here, this node has two inputs. In the first one, we're gonna put the data table, and in the second one, we provide the dictionary table, so the one that we want to match. And the configuration is pretty intuitive. We just have to select which columns we want to match of the two tables. So in the data table is gonna be, I guess, the SKU ID, right?
Yeah.
And also in the dictionary, we have the SKU ID. And now in here, I'm gonna surprise you because in the spreadsheet, you have to repeat VLOOKUP every time for every column. But with the value lookup node, you can just do, with one node, you can bring all the columns that you want. So let's click OK, and let's see if that worked. And now we have the same data table with where we keep adding columns. We have the same data table, and then we have the SKU name, the category, and the price according to the SKU ID.
Must say that was quite simple. Yeah.
All right. Then what's next?
Let me think. So date and time column, I need to take out of that the month name and the month number.
Okay, so we want to extract the name from the date and time, and for that, let's look for extract, because we have the extract date and time fields, which is gonna help us in this case. So we can click the first button again, and in here we can select which fields we want to extract. You said the month, right? Let's extract
the name,
the number and the name, both of them. And again, unsurprisingly, this is just gonna append a new column with the name extracted by the date. So we didn't have them before, right? No, and now we have the new column added there.
Looks good. Very simple so far. Yeah.
Okay, what's next? Now I think it's ready to do pivoting, right?
Yeah. So this is the first one. Now we're ready to pivot it to the second table. Yeah.
Any idea what I'm gonna look for to do the pivoting?
Is it the pivot?
Pivot.
There you go.
No,
easy enough. All right. Yeah. I'm starting to get it.
It's pretty intuitive. Yeah. Drag and drop. Connect first node, and now you have to guide me here because in the spreadsheet you have to select the rows, the columns, and the values. And in here we just have a slightly different name. We have the groups, pivot, and then the aggregation. Can you tell me what you did there? So
yes. So if I remember, I need to have the store ID.
All right.
For the groups or the rows, the month, the name, scheme name,
the name,
and the category.
And the category there. All right. So those are rows.
Those are the rows. Yeah.
And then as pivots. So
the pivot, the column needs to be the account.
The account. So I just select the columns that I want as pivot here, and then what do you want to aggregate?
Basically, a sum of the amount. Yeah.
Okay. So we select amount, and then as aggregation, we can select, is it sum? And then we have many other options. For example, let me just put this as pivot name and then keep the original name, so it's just clearer, in the output. But basically what it does, you just have now your first pivot table where you have for each store, for each name, for each category, for each month, you have the costs and the revenues there.
That looks good. So now the revenue is set up.
Exactly. So what did we do? Basically, we just, as you said, as you see, we just used a bunch of nodes to read data from different sources, put them together, and then in the end do some pivoting. Now, what I highly recommend you if you're building a workflow like this, so if you're building your process in Analytics platform, is to put comments under your nodes. So for example, in here, we did cell splitter. So we split this column in here. Why don't just add the comment there? So we put split coding column. And this is pretty useful, right? Because it's for you, of course, if you reopen this workflow after a certain time, but also for somebody else if they're working on that.
So if I go on holiday or something and I share that, or someone has to use it, then
the workflow speaks by itself.
I mean, visually already, but this is, I like this, extra notes there.
You have this kind of documentation as you go under the workflow. All right, so you can add it for every node and and comment and build this documentation as you go. Now, actually, after this pivoting, I think then I got what you did on your spreadsheet. You read some data from the marketing, right? And for that, I've actually already prepared the workflow there that read that data. So don't panic, it's super simple, but I just didn't want to do all the process again since I've already done it. But basically what I did here, I just accessed the budget values from the database by using a bunch of nodes, and then I do some manipulation. So I have to crop, to remove some rows, do some unpivoting operation to make them suitable to what we are gonna do, and then rename the column. And in the end, I have a table like this. So I have for each store, for each name, for each month, we have the budget, the revenue of the budget that we have for these combinations, right?
Yeah, that looks right. Yeah.
Okay. So what do we want to do now?
Yeah. So I had the pivot table, and now I have to bring from that bottom line there, workflow. I need to bring the one column up, the budgeting, to be able to compare that to the revenue. So
this one,
yeah,
we want to bring it here, right?
Exactly.
We want to add the budget there to compare them, right?
Yeah.
So and how did you do that?
Yeah, it's one of those difficult things because there's multiple things that you want to match. So you can do something like an index match within a match within a match, but I don't really like Inception, so I had a different worker. Anyways, doesn't matter. If you can show me easy way to do it, I would be impressed.
Oh, of course there is any. Yeah, I understand that with the value lookup is a bit limited. Also the value lookup node is a bit limited in this case because we want to look up for multiple values for the store ID, for the name, and for the month. So for that, let me introduce you to the concept of joiner, which is, in this particular case, we can call it as a value lookup on steroids. Because what it does, we can again provide the two tables, but what we do, we can select multiple matching criteria in here. So from the two tables, we can select the columns that has to match. And in this case, we want to match the store ID, as you said. Then we can add on the plus, can add the month.
Then the
month,
name.
And then the name.
Yeah, and the category, I think, as well.
And then the name. I think that should be enough because then the category is the same.
Okay.
Yes, and then let me remove the other columns because we only care about the budget revenue. And as I said, in this case, it operates as a value lookup plus, but of course the joiner is way more. But in this particular case, what it does, it will bring, we did something wrong, of course. Do we also have the category then? Maybe you were right. Where is it? There you go. Is this one, SQ name. I selected the wrong one. Yeah, there we go. Now we have the store ID, the name, the category, the month. Oh, wow, that's a big relief, actually. I thought I messed up the date.
Sounds like a song we're singing here. Yeah.
And now we have for the store ID, name, category, month. We have the cost, the revenue, and the budget revenue.
And it seems that looks right now. The correct column is there.
Yeah. Okay. So we have all of them. Easy. Now let's build up this the rest of this workflow because I guess then you want to get to the visualization because I'm gonna surprise you with the actual automation. So the actual added value of this if you haven't seen it already.
Cool. Of course. Sounds good.
So what you do next is to do some aggregations, right?
Yep,
because now we have many rows we want to aggregate for store.
And we want to bring them together, yeah.
So let's look for aggregation, and we have a node, which is row aggregator. In this case, the row aggregator is going to work as a simplified version of the pivoting that you would do in Spreadsheet. So it's super, super easy for this kind of operation. In this case, we just have to select one category column, which is going to be the store ID. We can select one kind of aggregation, for example, the sum. And what do we want to sum? The revenue and the budget. So we have revenue and budget for both of them. Okay. And now we have a tidier.
Yeah, that looks good. That's now ready for the final variance.
Exactly. Because for each store, we have the revenue and the budget summed there. And now you want to do some mathematical operation, right? So let's look for math. And we have a math formula that we can apply. Again, let's provide the data table. And now the math formula is what you're kind of used to actually the most, because in here you can select 2 different columns and then apply a mathematical operation. You have a set of functions that you can apply, but in this case, we just want to do, for example, the ratio between the revenue and the budget.
Yeah.
And let's just call it ratio. Now down here, we have store ID, revenue, budget, and the ratio between the two.
Yeah, that looks good.
Okay, and now finally, I think you had the
just a bar chart, right? Yeah, just to
bar chart. So in the node repository, I don't even have to search; it's already there. Drag and drop, and connect it like this. And now the bar chart, the visualization nodes are pretty cool because you can see what you're doing as you go. So you can select different things. For example, let's remove this column. And we have your visualization here. So for each store, you have the revenue and the budget in the visualization.
Can compare it visually. Nice.
All right. So what do you think about this so far?
Well, I'm quite impressed. You really built this thing in, what, 10, 15 minutes. But do I need to then, if I want to do the next month, build this thing again, the whole process?
No, of course not. You don't have to do it again. It's a whole process is already defined there. What you could do, for example, instead of building the things again, because we want you to automate, right? For example, let's open the Excel reader. We read the data from January, right? But what you could do is to just read some other data like this, click OK, go to the end. And now all the new data will pass through this process, and then you're going to have a new visualization, for example, if that was your end goal, with the new data.
So in other words, the workflow does the work for you. That's the automation.
Exactly.
Right?
That's the real power of automation. Then the other thing, if you don't want to do it month by month, but for example, let's say that you want to read all the data that you have in a folder, you can also change.
So like for the year or something like
exactly,
that.
You just change files in folder. You select the new folder, in this case, the data folder, where I have data from January to, I don't know, July. And you can apply a filter, for example, I think it was 2020, like this, with a wildcard or whatever. And now we are reading all the data in that folder. They are all appended together into the same data table. And you can apply exactly the same.
Without any copying and pasting, without doing nothing.
No copy and paste, and you still have the original data saved there. And as you see, it changed a little bit with more values there.
So 2 clicks and that's it?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, wait, but this starts to look really impressive, but I have a couple more questions.
Go for it. All
right. So say I sent my first report out or visualize it, and someone like from management asked me do a different aggregation, right? So let's say I've got the pivot table there and everything, or the things now joined. Is that possible? Do we need to build a new workflow for that, or can I kind of reuse this somehow?
Of course, you can reuse until you want. So for example, let's say that you want to do another aggregation. In here, we aggregated by store, but let's say that you want to now aggregate by, I don't know, SKU name, so for a different item. Let's look for another aggregator node. You can create a new branch in here. And now go for another column, for example, the SKU name, like this. And now you have another operation by reusing everything that you've done so far, just with a different result.
Okay. Can I have another question?
Go for it.
All right. I started to like this, but let's say I do this in KNIME and I want to share what I've done with my data with someone that's not using KNIME or an Excel sheet, or maybe push it to one of the BI tools that we use to visualize. Is that possible?
Of course, it's possible. So if you do a process like this in KNIME, so if you build a KNIME workflow, you're not stuck into KNIME. You can always export your data. For example, you can always write your data. Let's say that somebody asks you for this data aggregated like this, and you want to send it to them as a file. You can just look for a writer and write them to an Excel file by just passing the data here, and then this will create an Excel file on your laptop. Or you can write it on a CSV file, or you can, for example, export it to, you mentioned the BI tool, so you can export it to Power BI. We have the node for that. Where is it? Here. Send to Power BI. You can export it to Tableau. like this. You can export it to Tableau server. So really, you're not locked in here, but you can send your data to continue your operations somewhere else if you want.
Okay, I have one more question.
Yes.
Okay, so let's say someone is impressed in my department. They have kind of similar operations that they want to do, so they want to kind of maybe reuse the thing that I built, the workflow, right? Can I share it with them and they tweak it a little bit and something like that?
Definitely. You can share this workflow as it is to somebody else as a file, and they can open them on their KNIME Analytics platform installation. They can change it, reuse it as it is, do whatever they want. There is also another way of sharing them, of sharing a workflow with somebody, which is using the KNIME Community Hub, so our cloud where you can upload your data science solutions to the KNIME community, and also to enable collaborations between you and your colleagues, for example. Yes, that's also possible.
Okay, Emilio. Let's say I am impressed and I want to get started, or maybe someone watching today would like to get started with KNIME, try to automate some of their spreadsheets. How would they go about this?
Then we have a slide for that. So yes, how to get started. So I guess you're convinced, right? So the first thing that you're gonna do after this this webinar, I guess you're gonna first download the KNIME Early Access. You can find it on KNIME on the download page of KNIME. And you're gonna get to our version 5, which we call KNIME Early Access, and you can start building your workflow right away. After that, you can also read our Getting Started guide. So if you want to build your first workflow step by step, we have a guide for that. You can access that. It's very well done. Then once you get familiar with it, you can go through our cheat sheet, which basically describes which describes for you all the nodes that you need to get started. So it's a very nice reference if you're building a workflow.
And it's for beginners, right? The speech
just for beginners. Yes.
Okay.
So all the set of nodes that you need to get started to automate your spreadsheet. And finally, we also provide a set of ready-made workflows, so blueprints that you can always check if you want to get inspiration, or if you want to understand how things work. So yeah.
That sounds pretty good. I'm guessing there's a couple of questions out there. So as we get ready to the Q&A, I actually want to invite some special guests, so to call, to join us here. Peter, maybe you can quickly introduce yourself as we get ready for the Q&A.
Oh, thanks, Schalk, Emilio. My name is Peter. I'm the product owner and the UX designer of the modern UI, so-called AP5 Early Access.
Yeah. So all the things that you see in the new UI, that's the face behind. One of the faces.
One of the faces, besides all the important developers as well. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Peter, while we're speaking about the new UI, we showed everything today in version 5. It's a question I'm going to ask Emilio as well, but having built it, having designed it, what are your favorite features of the new UI?
I think they're different in a couple, but my personal highlight is because it was a long time not possible, is connecting nodes from the backward, like from the input to the output port. Before it was, it's maybe a bit geeky or maybe a detail, but like in the end, that's really, really important to get the best user experience for our users.
I guess that's when it's a really large, workflow, and you want to pull something back. You don't need to move around. I get you.
Yeah.
All right. Same question to Emilio. Having used the new UI for a while now, presented it today, what is your highlight, newest feature?
I've used it for a while, and I really like the new look and feel. That everything is into the same. It's more tidy into the same space. That tidiness is something that I really like of the new UI, and also, but my personal highlight is the new visualization nodes. So how they are tidy and how you can see things updating as you go. That's gonna be my
interesting. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, and I'm guessing everyone has their own special preference, so to speak. Staying for a moment still with the UI, and while we have Peter, another one to you. I guess there's a lot of people that are wondering. We had the previous UI look and feel. We have a new one. We know that there's some new looks to it, but what is really the main difference? Maybe if we really go into the details between the two.
There are many things that are the same. So to say like building up the workflows and so, but like you said, the details, what is the technology behind? So we have changed it to browser-based technology, and we have now can adjust the user experience on the UI in a way, I think, in a better way. That is more the technology side, but then we have also like experience before that you have it seems like it was a limited space where you can build up the workflow, and now it's more this infinite canvas feeling. So you can build up their parts of it and their parts of it. So you're not tied to in the beginning to build up your workflow. So that is the difference. Also, I would say like the node repository itself, like before it was on different ways structured, and now with the current grid view, you really get what you see. Like you see the nodes as you get them in the workflow when you add them. So I would say that is the kind of difference, as well.
So I like that you now mentioned the nodes and how they appear to the user. And now I actually want to throw this next question to Emilio, and it is actually about the new version 5. There's a couple of new things. We called it, for instance, the starter perspective. Maybe you can just elaborate a little bit on why is the starter perspective, right?
So why this name of the starter perspective? The name comes because of the dedicated set of nodes that we provide. So we got the feedback that some people downloading KNIME for the first time, then they are, as I said, overwhelmed by all those nodes. That super cool that you can do so many things, but sometimes it's just too much. So what we do with the starter perspective, we just hide some of the nodes that are still useful but a bit less frequently used, and we just show the mostly used one, so the most useful one, so that people can start right away without having too many other inputs. But of course they are not removed from the this is for the people who already know KNIME and are gonna switch to version 5. They're just hidden, but they're still there, and you can always enable them to show up as before. So it's just to start the perspective, it's just to help the people start, as I said, their learning process with KNIME without being overwhelmed by too many nodes.
Yeah. So like the core nodes that you need to get started.
The core nodes, exactly.
All right. So there's two questions, Peter, I want to combine for you. The one is also still about the name of the current version 5. We called it early access. And I want to combine that with another question we got, which is, when is the new UI official release? That if you're allowed to say something, but I think those two kind of go together, the questions,
like early access was really like for people that want to start. On the one hand, like Emilio said, for that was also why we had the starter perspective as a default perspective. So you can start with it and play around with it. What is dedicated to a user group, I would say. And to gather as well, like feedback. And I think we have a forum thread and received a lot of feedback. And in the complete development cycle and the user experience of the UI, it was really useful to get early feedback. So this is also one thing that was called early access version. So and to sum this up, like your second question, when will we have like removed those kind of early access banner? Like it's planned for this summer, something like I think end of July. We will have like the next released version, and then this is the default perspective by default.
Yeah, and I'm guessing we are still encouraging that feedback from the people as things are.
Yeah, absolutely. Like even now, we encourage users that are using it to give us feedback, because like it also impacts what kind of things and how we will do this, right? So and develop it.
Exactly. So if you download it and you have some feedback, please do give it. Especially Peter will enjoy it. I want to quickly now swap a little bit themes here and go a bit more to the technical things. Emilio, a question for you. We got the question, basically, I'm going to kind of paraphrase it here. How clean should the data be? In other words, how would KNIME handle blanks? I guess if there's no values in it, how would you handle that?
Okay. They can be as dirty as you want, so there is no
dirty data is fine, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. We don't judge there, because with KNIME you can take the data as they are. So as I shown more or less in the demo, you start from raw data as they come to you, and then you have all the nodes to clean your data as you go. So you can, of course, you can handle blanks, which we call missing values, and they are, I guess they are now red question marks in a circle, right? Those are
values, yes.
blank. What the user called blanks value. They are missing values, and you can handle them. You can remove them. You can add anything that you want to them, and then even if you have data scattered to different columns, there are nodes to bring them to a nice and clean shape. Of course,
Good. I think that's quite a clear answer. I'm going to go to this next question. This looks like it has to do with again, what KNIME can handle as data formats. And the question is basically, is there a node that can read a table that comes in an HTML format?
Is there a node that can read data? Yes. HTML format. I think I would go for the line reader probably in that case, and then you read all the lines, and it depends what you want to do with that HTML, but I think that would be the way to go, probably. So yes, definitely there is a node.
Peter, jump in anytime if you want to add something there. Okay, here is another one. This is actually a good question, maybe also because you worked on designing the new nodes and the perspective. So I'm going to ask it to the two of you. Maybe Peter, you can ask. We have now this new value lookup for old KNIME users, that they will realize this is a new node, right? The value lookup node. And the question is, what is now the difference between this new node and the joiner node that we already had? Yeah. Do you want to start and then throw it to Emilio if
I hopefully I answered correctly, but maybe you can. Okay. Like also for this kind of special new nodes, we somehow also tried to narrow down functionality, so it's easier to start with these nodes. So you can use like the value lookup, but also like the joiner node, and we choose the in our opinion the most used features for that. So that was the reason to limit it to those kind of functionality.
So the same concept as the starter perspective. So we want to give all the possible options that you have to configure a node, but probably just the core ones are enough in 99% of the cases. So value lookup is, like, to answer the original question, yes, value lookup can mimic the joiner node in just a simpler way, and it applies to a lot of cases actually. So you don't need the joiner. You don't need to overshoot with the joiner sometimes, and you can just go with the value lookup. And if you want to do more complex stuff, you always have the joiner there ready to be used.
Yeah. Good. I think that's quite clear. Here's the next one. This is also interesting one. People working with Excel or spreadsheets in general can come from different sources. Let's say you do a couple of stuff. You bring your table and your file into KNIME. You do a bit of transformation. And now, before you export it, as far as I understand this question, can you format this let's say, call the spreadsheet a little bit? Maybe, if I understand correctly, put some colors in there, change the font, something like that. Is that possible?
Yes, that's definitely possible. Actually, this is part of one of our courses. If I can just,
of course.
We also have a lot of courses about how to learn KNIME, and this is part of one of our courses, how to format spreadsheet. It's, if I remember correctly, it's part of an extension. So you need to install an extension. So extensions are just a bunch of nodes that you can add to your KNIME Analytics platform by just installing them in a couple of clicks. And then you have a lot of nodes to actually format your spreadsheet, and then you can export it.
So it's yes, and if you want to find out how to do it, we actually have it in one of our courses, right?
Yes, I don't remember correctly which one should be.
I think it's a
DW.
The L2DW.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Question for Peter. Bit of a compatibility. The question is basically, if you build your workflows in 4.7 or maybe a different version, and will they work in the 5.0 whatever the next release is going forward, would they be compatible?
Yeah, like you can open the current workflows that are built with 4.7 or with 5.0, and then open it in modern UI. They slightly look different, a bit of like, because we adjusted it a
They
bit
look nicer, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but it is possible. Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't need to worry if you are switching over from a previous version to the new UI. Things will work. Okay, let's look here. Another one for Emilio. This is about a bar chart. The question is, will you discuss, or can you maybe explain to us how to export both the data and the bar chart in one output?
In one output, okay.
I guess what we have to guess what output
Yes,
this is. Is it a dashboard or a report?
Maybe it's something like a data app or something like that.
Exactly. Yes, yes. That's something that we actually didn't touch that much in the demo. But what we have done in the demo is just to build the bar chart, for example, and then to show it in analytics platform. But what you could do is to create, for example, a dashboard out of it. So to put together different visualizations in an interactive view, and then the user can interact with that, for example. And for that, you need the concept of components. So that would be one way to go. Or, for example, another way would be to just export the data as an image, and that would be another idea. And then you write the image somewhere. That's also possible. Or another way that comes to mind is to build a report out of that, and we also support that. So you can also build together the visualizations, the data in let's say a report, which is, I don't know, imagine it as a piece of paper, but of course nobody prints it anymore. And that would be another way of exporting that. And all of them are possible with KNIME.
All right, sticking with charts and visualizations for a moment, I think, Peter, you can take this one as well. The question is, because it's in the demo, we did now a chart there, and we quickly opened the configuration box. So someone was asking, are you able to change the labels of the chart, right? And, they couldn't see us. The access wasn't named or labeled. Is this possible?
Who wants to? That's an easy one.
Please.
The answer is just yes. Yes, you can change them. You can change them interactively. As when I selected the configurations for the bar chart, you can just change the name of the axis. You can put a title. You can do all the configurations that you want in there. Yes.
Okay, let me have a look. We have another one. Let's try this one. So we have another question that just came in. The concept of exporting to Excel works to automate the workflow for using without using KNIME. I'm not sure of that, but let's go back. We did show that the workflow we built, we can export in various ways. And if you want to take it back to Excel, I think that's what the question tried to indicate. But we did show that, right? You can just put Excel writer or CSV.
Yeah, or do it in different sheets.
Exactly. Also write them to another sheet. You can also append to an existing Excel file with the Excel writer, so you don't have to create different files everywhere. But you can do something on your data in KNIME. So read the data from Excel, do something in KNIME, and write them back into the same Excel file, just appending the new rows. That's also possible.
Perfect. Couple of more questions streamed in. Since Emilio's a data scientist, I'll throw this one to him. Someone asked, how can you incorporate machine learning techniques? We all know what the current buzzwords are: AI, the language models, etc. Is that possible in KNIME? Can you do it?
Definitely, yes. I'm very happy that the answer is always yes to this question.
That's far, right?
Yes, of course. We have a bunch of predefined machine learning algorithms. So we have this learner predictor motif. For example, if you want to do, I don't know, starting from decision tree to regression to more complex models, so you can build and train your deep learning models within KNIME. You can then export the model with another writer, for example. And according to the other question was about learning large language models. That's also possible because we also support, like, you wouldn't probably train your own large language model in any case, but what you can do is, for example, access the API and then use the result of that model in your workflow. And that's also possible because you have a bunch of nodes to build REST requests on the workflow. So yes to everything.
So Peter, if someone downloads the new version, KNIME Analytics Platform version 5, can they start building these models immediately, or is there extensions involved, or what do they need to do?
That is a really good question. I think they are coming not in a starter perspective, but like if you switch over to the all nodes, seeing all the nodes. I don't know if each and every is inside there, but probably yes.
Yes, yeah. Most of the machine learning algorithms
I think are there yes. And don't need any additional extensions.
No. So only if you want to go, for example, to deep learning, we have a Keras integration for that, and for that you just need to install the extension, but it's just a couple of clicks away.
Yeah, so it comes shipped in the version already. You just need to click.
Yeah, they're probably hidden because they're not part of the starter perspective, but you just have to click show more and you can see all the other nodes that you want.
And if someone wants to learn to do it with KNIME, right? Do we have some
we have
materials for that?
Yes, as much as you want. We have courses specifically for who wants to learn how to do machine learning, who wants to do how to do deep learning with KNIME. We have a bunch of courses for that, all free, all self-paced, all online, so you can check them out.
Perfect. And we have a cheat sheet, I think, for that as well.
As well.
Okay, I think we can slowly start wrapping it out. If people download either the new version 5, the early access that's out already, or as we said, summer, there's another one coming, and they want to give us some feedback, let's just say that. I mean, where is that again? It's on the forum. We have a space.
There's on our forum. There's a thread, like especially for early access feedback. But we are happy to get feedback.
On that note, can we just get that last slide up again? Thanks, Emilio, Peter, for joining us. If you want to get in contact with us, or you want to go check out the hub or some of the materials we have, there are contact details on the slide. Otherwise, you can click on the Contact Us tab there at the bottom, and you can write us, you can reach out to us in the forum. There's multiple ways of doing it. And we hope you learned something today, and see you next time. Thanks.